Hello, everybody. Excuse me, I'm a little bit late. I've only just come in from, you see, Doors of Perception. I've been going around the AMACH, the Doors in the Field around County Leitrim, and that was what I was going to talk about today. But I popped in, and of course, there was the expectation that I can just switch the computers on and everything will work. But no, it isn't. So I'm going to have to waffle a bit while stuff's warming up and trying to get online. I might have to use my phone a bit for this and get this lined up, because this is the phone's about the last thing that's working. Oh, hang on, there's something coming up. Anyway, I'll just ad lib and I'll warm up and I will get going. But it's Nature Echoes. It's number 38. Is that right? The Doors of Perception. And I didn't get the messaging in. If you can actually introduce yourself, who you are, where you're watching from, and I'll get moving with that. There doesn't seem to be anybody at the moment, and I will, as I'm trying to sort of program in the show, excuse me for a moment while I kind of improvise, and we'll get us kind of lined up for what we've done. The one thing I tried to do was get photographs going, and that's not exactly working very well at the moment. Let's see if no, that's not working. I had a whole line of 40 photographs, and unfortunately that hasn't come up. So I'm going to try again and get the photographs up for you. But yeah, excuse me, I see one or two people. So meanwhile, I'll put in the comments if you introduce yourself and where you're calling from. Even the comments are not working too well at the moment. Let's get right. I've got the comments going. Now let's get some photos up. As I say, for anybody who hasn't seen, I've just come in this moment, switched everything on, hoped everything would work, and it wouldn't. Normally I give myself an hour setting up, but let's see if this is going to work for me. It's just my latest hassle is trying to get these there's 40 photos, and they're not actually coming up properly. And there's I use 3 computers, only one's working. So if anybody, it's because I got old gear. So if anybody wants to become a subscriber, a paid subscriber, if I can point. There's the I'm really all over the place. There's the go to naturefolklore.com, go to my Substack from there, and if you become a paid subscriber, maybe I can get some better gear going for these shows for you, which would be fantastic. I just got to test out these photos, see if I got more of them up that I should have. Let's see how far we got. Now it's not working. It's a shame, because this show is going to rely on photographs. And I'm going to try again with it. There we go. Let's see. That's what we need. Okay, they're sort of coming up. Now, if you've been following me on the Facebook, I haven't had time to put the videos up on the YouTube yet. But hang on, I'm seeing how photos are going to work for me. I'm just going to test, see how many photos came up this time. Right, I've got, it looks like I've got about 25 out of the 40 have come. So I'll have to work with that, otherwise the time will be up. So excuse me for that. And I'll have more posted probably next week, and also on the videos that are coming up. But I'm actually going to get started with the show. As a Doors of Perception, what I've been doing for a few days, it's an exhibition that's actually on 21 fields in County Leitrim. If you've been following me on Facebook, I've kind of been announcing that pretty much daily, whatever I'm doing, trying to get videos up. But I've been to various places, and I come in, I'm tired, go to bed, get up, go out and do more of these places. So the videos are very slow coming up. I'm trying to get to all 21 sites. That's not going to work out, unfortunately. The exhibition is taken down from the fields at the end of this month. I think I've got to 9 of them so far, and I will. Oh dear, there's some sad faces coming up. Oh, not the usual love hearts and so forth. I'll get all the sad faces. As I say, I do apologize. I've just this moment walked in, switched on, and went into broadcasting. Haven't got photos, haven't got anything prepared. So this is very much ad lib today about going around to this wonderful exhibition of AMACH to the field. These doors are standing in incredible places, and they've all got a whole different approach to storytelling. And the one thing, as why I call this doors of perception, is what is unified in all of the doors that I visited is there's nothing from books. These are actually farmers' experiences, and they're also telling about their parents' experiences and grandparents' experiences. And I absolutely love this, because a lot of people say, what books have I read? What books have I read? It's been an absolute delight to actually go around to the various stores. I think I'm not sure I've been to 9 or 10. Anyway, we'll see when I go through the photographs. But in every case, this is people, the researchers, university people actually come to for their information and their stories. And everyone's approach was so unique. And I was putting it up on Facebook. Oh God, sorry, I got an interlude coming in already. Yeah, I was saying on Facebook, I wish there was more posts on connection, vision, and experience. And that's exactly what I've been getting when I've been going to these doors, because on the social media, I find it's very much about everybody sort of questioning people about what research have they done, what's the facts, what's the truth, and so forth. Are you going to go around to these 21 doors and think they're all liars when they're really describing their landscapes and so forth? Well, I'll go through some of the pictures. I haven't got many up. You've seen a couple of videos that I've put up, but this one here is John Cranogue's. If I can get it, no, that's in John Cranogue's, and I thought that was a beautiful one for the doors of perception. It really kind of explains that very well. I'll come to his in a moment, but the first one I went to is John Grania, and that's John Reynolds there holding up his door, just as well he was holding up, because when I actually got there, he wasn't there, and his door had fallen down, and his wife Sheila, lovely woman, although she sort of wasn't sure what was going on with the doors. And then I turned up. She thought I might be some bandit or burglar. She was very unsure. And we soon warmed up, and we ended up, actually, John wasn't there. John hadn't even put a phone number. The idea is you go up to these doors, and on the side of the door, there's a phone number. So you dial it up and you hear the story from the farmer. Anyway, Mary was very kind. When she got used to me and we shared a couple of stories, she took me over the field. And because the door wasn't visible. And the reason the door wasn't visible is it been blown down. And if you look at the video, I've got it on Facebook at the moment. I'll probably get it up on YouTube next week. You'll see where the door's picked up, and it's like a piece of artwork where there's the dry bit of light green grass and holding it up. And I did actually find the phone number when I got home. They got messaged to me, so all was fine. And I did pick up John's story, which was quite fascinating. Go to my Facebook, later the YouTube, and you can actually hear my review of his story from there. And one thing I didn't show in my photograph, he's got this old, it's not exactly a gypsy caravan. If years ago people used to actually rent these with a horse, and they would go around the country, especially the west. It was popular around Glendalough area, or certainly in the Wicklow Mountains, certainly over in the Connemara, and also in the Barn. I don't know when that stopped. It probably stopped in the 80s because there was so much traffic. Camper vans have really put those out of action. And then I went on to a dune, and this was, I haven't got any photos, but I have got the video up for that. The ford of the fort there, and who's our host there? That's Jim McCaffrey. And interesting, not as long storytelling as I got from John Reynolds. John Reynolds is fascinating. But if you can see from the photo in the back there, he's absolutely surrounded by Sitka spruce tree plantations. And he kind of talks around that because that's when he's talking about the view of things, all you see is the Sitka spruce even up the hills. So it's an interesting comparison to various farms that I went to. And it's actually near an old railway station. There used to be a lovely narrow gauge railway that ran. It met the Sligo train, the Dublin Sligo train. It met it at Drummup, and then it would come through to Mohill by where I lived. It'd go up to Ballinamore, and then it'd go on to go into County Cavan. I forget where, but he talks about that. But that's nice. It's a roadside door. It was very easy after I'd been talking a lot with Sheila in the previous stop, so it was getting dark, so this was quite appropriate for me. But this was the next one was the real special one, and this is what really gave me the idea of the doors of perception. And this when I got to Jerry Bowen, he really kind of put a lot of this together. It was an inspiration of Edwina Guckian, who's been an incredible motivator of the whole of Leitrim coming together as a community and preserving, reinstating the Leitrim folklore throughout the calendar year. And it ranges from sowing the seeds for the oats, and from the oats, the threshing of the oats, and also keeping the straw for making the mummers' costumes and for making other items, and also the May celebrations was kept up. Hawthorns has been very big. Wonderful little Hawthorn festival that was in Drumshanbo a few weeks ago. If you follow me on Facebook, I kind of followed up on that. So this October is a time when the farmers are not doing much on the field, so we could actually go into the fields. We're invited. We can just show up, follow the instructions. If you go to the website, again, look at my Facebook, look on Edwina's Facebook, and you'll get the address of that to go around. This is on until the 29th of October. But this was wonderful. Jerry Brown's place. It was the Orgadrum Khan. And as you can imagine, that means the field of the Khan of the hill. And I got some photos of that. There we go. And that sort of arrow pointing to the field where you fall around. What Jerry's done there, he's actually got barbed wire because he's still got animals. So he's got barbed wire and electric fence, but it guides you around there. And he's got this absolutely terrific, pretty much untouched cairn. That's the door. You get the phone number from the door. Behind there is an ash tree, and unfortunately got the ash die back. So it's a dead ash tree. And so I recorded a video. Yes, I have that one up on Facebook, I believe. Yeah, that one's up because it got a very good response. And I sat by that, gave a review. I phoned up the number by the ash tree, gave a review. You can see the word cairn on the left there. And one thing he was saying, there's very few adults and very few humans, very few animals actually go onto that cairn. So it's fairly undisturbed. And from my own experience there, I would love to actually bring people in along. I have to get full approval from Jerry, of course, and we'll see what we can arrange. It wouldn't be surprised me if Jerry does something with this, but it's really something. It's got to be kept fairly private, small groups, and telling the story. And certainly, there's plenty of fairy stories and definitely she stories, and there is quite a whole divinity of feeling there. And why I'm calling this Doors of Perception, and also there's a subtitle Fairy Winds, is because I think Jerry comes up with fairy wind stories. I know Edwina later, which was at Headford where I visited, she talks of the fairy winds. And the fairy winds is while the farmer is working, and when they're working very close to either what they call a fairy fort, the ring fort, or by one of these little cairns that are overgrown and left wild, is that as they're working, it's like as if it's a warning shot. You get the little tiny whirlwinds that appear. And there's many stories around those whirlwinds that, yeah, that's the fairies being present, sort of warning you that you're going past, you're getting close to their kind of oasis, their retreat, the playground, and the spirit. And, you know, it's sort of be careful. It's almost like how I feel when I approach a shield in a gig. You know, you're entering into a sacred space, because as you see on that hill, it's nature's been allowed to do its own thing. There's no farming, no machinery gets anywhere near that. The farmers got the fields, they're happy with that and doing what they can with the fields. For some of these people, when they talk about the fairy winds, there are stories of winds while you're actually doing the farming, while you're making the hay rick, while you're making the bales, and with your straw, that people have actually been picked up by the wind. And if you land, I'll come back to that again. You land, say, on the cairn or in the fairy fort, whatever it happens to be, suddenly time stops still. And as time stops still, you're not aware of the time being still in a way, really, but it is still, because an experience happens to you that just seems to go on, and you get a complete explanation of the she world, of the fairy world. And it can be very much related to how you've imaged it before, but it is quite a profound experience for those that this happens to. And this is like as if it's infinite time when you're there. And then when you sort of come back down, it's only been like 5 minutes at the most. Well, there are some stories around that one, and I'm not sure who mentioned it as I was going around, because the fairy winds was a story that came up at some of these doors. I have a feeling it was John Crenogue's, and that's on John Crenogue's there. That is quite incredible. He's a wonderful storyteller, very much so, and he talks perhaps more on the fairy winds than the others. I'm not sure if him or Jerry does, but there's a whole mixture which is quite incredible. And I think it was John. Might be in Edwina, anyway, it doesn't matter. The fairy winds has a second layer of folklore, and it was the second layer I'm more familiar with, because it's one that's very much present in Scotland. Now, unfortunately, I've had 4 strokes, and certainly with the first one that I had, it was that kind of experience that these people were explaining. These farmers, the storytelling is like being whipped up by the whirlwind, and you're placed into the fairy ring. You're sometimes placed by the well, or in this case, again, to remind you, let's get another picture. This is the actual cairn itself. So, and I didn't go up it, but I went around the outside. Unfortunately, I've got a bit of disability, so I can't climb up them. There's some hawthorn there. It's very vague on that photo, the hawthorn. And this is just different views looking up the cairn. I'll talk about that one later. But go back to something that's more recognizable. There you go, up the cairn there. The one thing I found, especially with the first stroke I had, it's as if you have a whirlwind hit you. This is the experience I had. And it's like a whirlwind hits you outside and inside, and you're getting lifted up and you have this out of body experience. And it's just like the storytellers were saying by these doors, those that were talking about the fairy winds. And that's quite appropriate. As a lot of you know, I've got the book out, Bathing in the Fae's Breath. What they actually say, the Scottish translation of that is you're touched by the Fae's breath. And that touch is the fairy wind, the description of the fairy wind that actually lifts you from the place you're at, puts you into somewhere else, pours you with an infinite amount of wisdom, and even questioning some of the things you've done in your life. What, in my case, is what am I doing chasing around ley lines? What am I doing chasing around megalithic sites? You know, why do you regard those as being sacred? And this sort of entity that I've described elsewhere was more or less saying, well, why is that more sacred than the heritage oak tree over there? And what trees do you think were replaced in order to put this human-built stone places? I was getting questions like that. So this is where I'm combining the ideas of the doors of perception with the fairy winds. Well, it's fairy rings as well. So I think I'll go through with some more photographs here, because I've been going on quite long already. And as I say, this is totally spontaneous, nothing prepared. And that's obviously the cairn. This is a Jerry Burns, and that is flax. Flax used to grow. He talks about the crops from the ancestors on his farm there, on the Orgadrum Khan, and certainly they have grown barley and oats, but there was flax, and he explained that below, I think, let's go back at another picture or so. He said that below this, that it was kind of a drumlin, that there was actual water. And that water, to me, it's like when I talk about the Sheila and the Gigs in the landscape, the way he described it. But that water actually filled in to become a bog. And from that bog, it dried out more, and there was crops of flax. And then from the bog, they actually drained it and made it arable land where they could grow oats and so forth. But that's some flax, prepared flax. Well, not prepared flax. That's flax that would have been harvested, but it was actually under the bog. So that was sort of retrieved from the bog. And Jerry explains the flax on the story on the door. So there we go. We leave. That's a bit of a cairn photo there. And we move on. That's the door he had. And I'm just looking back up it as we were leaving. And it's well signposted. It's quite a walk from where you park, but it's worth it. And another there. And as I was leaving, there was a donkey. It was actually quite a friendly donkey that came up. And I was guilty because I didn't have carrots. So this is the next one. And this was very different. I went there at the second one. This is a man who's really full of heritage stories, J.P. McGann. I think he's 95 or 96, something like that. It's interesting that it's a half door, and in some ways it relates to the stories that he was telling. It was pretty gothic storytelling that came from JP there. And the story, rather than just telling stories, he was actually being interviewed by Edwina Guckian for much of it. And it was really about his ancestors, what they did with the land. But he kept coming back to cemeteries and even a field that he said was a graveyard because of the number of people that were buried there. So he tended to tell a lot of the dark side of the stories with the landscape. And of course, that has to be told because that is part of the landscape and part of the heritage. On the other doors that have been around, it hasn't been really as focused as what JP did. And there was Edwina trying to prompt him about, what about the fairies around here? What about the fairy forts? What about the wells? And he did he did finally get onto it. And I think one of the things, and he actually laughed when he realized what he said. And he talked about a nearby well with very clean water, what they used. And there was Edwina asking him, what's the cures from the well? Because when people think of the holy wells, they're saying, would you go there? Would you go there for a cure? And he said, that's a lovely well. He says, it's great water for making a cup of tea. So that was it. But the lovely thing is his son there, Colin Stenson, or is his son-in-law? I'm not sure. But he came in on the talk, and he kind of gave the connecting bits and explained bits that JP was actually saying. So, the interesting perception, as I say, doors of perception, it really rooted up perhaps things that we hide. It certainly stirs the imagination about our ancestry, even about the hardships, how you adapt. And even through all that, you can make a lovely cup of tea out of the well and have a laugh about it. And that, I think, that's... I think that's quite a lot from that. It was wonderful. And that's it. That's actually Colin's house in the background, and that's the door as it is. And there was the door. There was cars going along, and each time a car went along, the dog chased it. So anyway, the next one that I went to was just getting dark as I got there. And this is quite stunning as well, because what we got here is Afrinach. It's a place where Mass was held. Now, what this is in the Jimmy Grafton Memorial Park in Effingham. And some of you might be familiar with Effingham if you've actually seen Jimmy's Hall. And that was a lovely film. It is a beautiful film that was made, Jimmy's Hall. Ken Roach, was it Ken Roach? Last film he ever made whilst he was alive. It is dark, so there's not much from there. If you actually... I don't think I have the video up for that yet, but when you get the video, I do try and show the Shemore in the background. And you'll find with a lot of these doors, you get two views, one of Shemore, which is the big, most famous fairy hill, I think, in Ireland. It's in Leitrim, and also of the Slieve Aaron, the Iron Mountain, which has got fantastic folklore, because that's the most popular place, especially in Leitrim, for where the Tuatha Dé Danann land, in a place called the Playground, funnily enough. And that's a gathering place during Bilberry Sunday now. But it was dark, and it was lovely. Paul Grafton, descendant, he has a lovely storytelling from there. And then the next day I went to Headford. This is actually Edwina Guckian's, Edwina and William, her father, and they both talked away to see. And there he is. There's William Guckian, and that door, as the story is told, and I pointed out, and when the video is out, when I get the video out, it shows the workshop across the road where that door was actually made many years ago. But there's lovely storytelling of, I don't know if I have the pictures. No, I think that's a lot, because I couldn't get any more pictures up. But I had pictures of Headford Lock and various other scenes around there. Some lovely pictures I was going to put up of some carved rabbits and a carved Owen stone, which was brilliant. So, or the other one that was really wonderful, and I didn't have time to put the pictures up, so you'll just have to rely on the one at the back. Hopefully I will get work on the video after this show, but it's John Crenogue's place, Tristurnan, the place of briars. He didn't really explain why it's a place of briars, except the one thing that John, actually his wife, certainly Shane, his son, working the farm, and lovely description that when you actually look through that door, that hole, you're actually looking along a high road that was a very popular highway that went off, I think, certainly to Shemore, certainly to the Leitrim village. And he explains the traffic that went along there and why they went along there, because the road that you now drive up, that was full of water. So this was the main one. So interesting tales. And John and the family, they really respect the land. They're really into the folklore of the land. They've actually got a lot of it going wild. That's why you see high high hedges around in that picture, and the tall trees. And on the old road, in order to honor the people that went along that road, they are planting oaks, and the oaks are doing very well. And on the video, when I get it up, you'll see the oaks actually growing on that. But John and Shane, they out of all the people, they're growing a lot more vegetables. They're doing the potatoes, and they are increasing on the barley and the oats. But they are working certainly on the trees and attracting wildlife. And just as I say, doors of perception again. When you hear John speaking, it can bring up your own memories, not only your own memories, but combining those with what the speaker of the door is saying. It's amazing how your imagination brings up your own clairvoyance of memories, things you've forgotten. Also, things that you were unsure about suddenly have clarity. And that's the one thing I've found the biggest benefit. And I always found this with storytellers, but over recent years, the storytellers I've seen, I've seen more storytellers picking up stories, either direct from other storytellers or direct from storyteller books. What seems to have been lacking, and it was very much part of my earlier life, is you actually got storytellers they were using the roots of old stories, but they were integrating their own experience with the land and the surroundings. They actually had the connection, which gave them the visions which they could express. And I think that perception is very valuable. But what's happened now, especially with social media, I find, is there's a lot of folklore compliance going on. You know, do the research, read the books, get the facts. Which obviously is valid in a point. But is that what we really need? Who really needs that? I think if you're going to do a scholarly degree, if you're going to university, you're going to do folklore in university, then you do probably head for the books and you do study the books. But the common things, I see there's new people coming. Hi, Josie Posey is here. Thanks for coming and commenting. What's going on with these 21 story doors around Leitrim is the people are giving the stories of their actual experiences, their perception of the land. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And I wish I'd got more photos up for you now, but I'm going to be closing this very soon. Very impromptu. I'll tell you where else I went. Where did it go after? It was Edwina's Headford, then it was the John's. And it's very novel. I mean, it's very novel going up to John's. When I messaged him, he said, make sure you bring your wellies along. And my wellies feel very uncomfortable, especially with my limitation with walking. And so I got waterproof boots. So far, it worked out fine. And when I saw a muddy part by one of the arrows, I thought, this is what John's talking about. And there was a grassy bank to the right. And so I went along the grassy bank. It was only when I came back that John was very courteous to actually, he got a bridge. I didn't notice it. I used the bridge going back. I'm going to see if I can get this bridge photo up for you. Give me a moment, because I thought this was very kind, very novel. There's a couple of things John did there I didn't get the photos up of. One of them, oh yeah, when you look through, let's see if we can get this up. When you actually get there, and I thought this was extremely thoughtful. It's not going to actually fill the screen properly, but he's actually got doors. Look at that. Okay, he can't look for very long. There you go. I think that's absolutely wonderful. He actually has seats to sit on and a table, perhaps write your notes and look through the door and follow what he's talking about the other side of the door. I think that layout was so superb. And I was relieved, because I couldn't take my rollator up there. I had to my trusty hazel stick. So I was so relieved to have a seat to actually sit down, make the phone call, listen to what John was saying, and make a video and give my review of it. I thought that was absolutely perfect, absolutely wonderful. Another one I'm going to try and get up of his, because I started talking about getting through the mud. Let's see if I can get this up as well. A lovely photo of this. Where is it that John did? It must be here. Oh yeah, there it is. I'll get this up for you as well. As I say, I saw the grass on the left. I went to the left because I didn't want to go into the pile of mud. But not only was John Crono courteous to put it's the bridge that you put over the mud. And come on. And the one thing I haven't got is that's an absolutely beautiful carpet that he's got there. And thank you, John. And as I say, a wonderful experience visiting there. So that was John Crenog's Dristern, and he even has signs. I haven't got the photos, but he has signs. I put them on Facebook. I think it was my cover photo for when they did the weather forecast today, because the two townlands next to him have got I can't remember the names offhand, but they've got fairy forts. The one to the north of him has one fairy fort, one to the south has two. So he's pointing in the direction of that. So from John's, did they go? Oh yeah, from John's. It's going to take me a while. I haven't even started on the video yet, but it was the absolute delight. I went on to the Leitrim Creamery, Leitrim Hill Creamery, and otherwise known as Core Glass. And if you go round to the farmers market, Sligo, Roscommon, Leitrim, I'm not sure, Cavan maybe, you'll see Gypsy and Lisa Gifford with their ghost cheeses. Oh, what an absolute and wonderful experience. Lisa was there. She gave me a wonderful welcome. I wanted to buy cheese anyway, so I wanted to be there before she closed at 6 o'clock. But she was the most incredible guest, and then I haven't even listened to her door yet. It's that bad. I got the phone number, and I really got the contents of her door while she walked around the fields, and the hens and the cockle followed us, and there was the goats as well. So I think that completed that day. And then today I went off to one that was very different, and I can't wait to make videos and get that shared with you. And that was Drumnadubber, and that's actually the Ridge of the Well. And a man called Willie Stewart, and it was very, very different. Again, this is one thing, you go to these doors, they're all very different. And what Willie was explaining, he's not running it, him and his wife not running it like a regular farm. They've not got cattle. They're not growing any oats and barley. They're just letting the land go back to nature. And they're encouraged, and through what they've been doing or what they've been leaving alone, they describe all kinds of wildlife that's coming in. All kinds of birds that are coming in. And then there was a plantation, a spruce plantation, which has now been felled and cleared. And since that's gone, there's no sign, it seems, of it coming back. I suppose one day it will. But that's turned into a nature reserve as well. And nature has brought its own trees along. Everything's thriving, quite magnificent. They are growing their own vegetables, and they've got some outbuildings they're doing up, and I was delighted to hear it's being done up with lime and hemp, just like we did with Carrowcrory. And as soon as they can, that's going to end up being an artist and writer's retreat. So that Willie Stewart's, that was great. So Ridge of the Well. And that's as far as I got, I think. That's 9 of them. There's 21 altogether. Hopefully I might get to 2 or 3 more tomorrow. But unfortunately, this does close on the 29th of October, and I've got all kinds of obligations. I think it's going to take me right up until the 29th of October, because I would have loved to have visited all 21 and take videos of all 21, but it looks like the best I'm going to do is 11 if I get to all 3 tomorrow, and it's a lovely sunny forecast for tomorrow. So that's a very impromptu Doors of Perception. Nobody's been making any comments. Maybe this has been the least professional performance I've ever done, because, as I say, it was straight in through the door, switch on the computers, sit down. I haven't even taken a drink of water yet, and just talk off the top of my head about this, because it's been this AMACH to the field has been a wonderful experience, and I hope other areas do the same, because it really grounds you not only into the original concept's the wrong word, the feel for the storytelling, the feel as I understand it, but the connection, the sensory connection, because what you're doing is connecting to all this stuff that doesn't have words. And this is a sensing and communication has been with humans for millions of years, where the actual tying together of symbols to make words, that's only been around, well, obviously in the Middle East and Persia, that's been around for thousands of years. But for us, people of Europe and west of there, the UK and Ireland, we've only been kind of connecting this stuff together. And it's funny, it's because of a religion thing that we've been connecting these words together. I suppose in order to spread a religion, let's get everybody listening to words and sentences, even though they can't read and write themselves. So that's really been around for, what would that be? That's not even 2,000 years yet. So it's a new thing, this whole thing with words. So it's lovely to go around. Though you listen to the stories, it's so much different to if you're actually in a venue. I mean, if you're in a venue and you've had your cup of tea and you sat on your seats, nice, warm and cozy, you don't see any green around you. All you've got is the speaker and maybe a few slides. But when you get out to these doors, suddenly there's no one around. You're in, and most of the time, in some kind of wilderness, and you're getting the farmer's story. And that's sort of clairvoyance on the spot. I think it's such a valuable experience. Anyway, that's about as much as I can, I ought to do. I'm not doing my usual beginnings and so forth. I'm just trying to go. As I'll be, hopefully, I'll be back to a regular performance, actually, because of the obligations I've got. I might not be back on a Wednesday for 3 weeks because the obligations do involve performance, they do involve travel, and I would like to be back on next Wednesday and the Wednesday after, but I think the way things are falling into place, it might not be possible. But even if I use the mobile phone or something, so maybe you're going to get some unprofessional, on the spot chats from me about what's going on over the next 2 Tuesdays, and then we'll get down to the nitty-gritty of the regular Nature Echoes. So thanks very much for watching this. I better go close because it's 45 minutes. Thank you for those of you who've sort of gone through this. Sorry, I only had 25 of the 40-odd photos I hope to show you. But keep going, watching the Facebook where I'm posting them up first. And I don't think I'll get time to do the YouTube versions until early next week. So watch out for them on the Nature Folklore YouTube channel, and then keep going to naturefolklore.com where I'll try and update. I must admit, I tends to be low in the pecking order. I tend to do the first postings on Facebook, then the next ones on YouTube, and then the Nature Folklore seems to be last in the pecking order, when really it should be at the top of the pecking order. By the way, thank you for watching. I hope there was something of interest that you enjoyed, and I hope those who posted the unhappy faces rather than the usual love things, I hope they weren't putting that because you weren't getting any sound. Some people put those up, they're not going to sound, but they don't tell me. Anyway, hopefully see you next time with Nature Echoes. If it's not next week or the week after, it'll be the week after that. But I will be making the announcements when the next Nature Echoes is on. And I think I will carry on a little bit more on something related to the doors of perception, even the fairy winds. And this is going to be, and I'll make it in relation to us moving into the winter and moving through the winter to give us a whole sense of place and coziness, and I suppose even transformation and recharging through the winter. So have a wonderful week and being inspired wherever you can. I think I'll close it off there. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching this Doors of Perception and a little bit on the fairy winds, and I will see you whenever I can. See you when I can. Bye. Thank you. And now I will definitely close now. Thank you very much.